Howdy doody, cats and kittens.
What up?
It's Monica with Our Paranormal World. For those of you that follow me on TikTok, I put out a new video only on TikTok that talks about, it's a real quick one. It's not long at all. That talks about the phantom car story. You know, when that phantom car rolled up on me and my friend in the middle of the night while we were getting ready to set up camp. Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't catch it. I don't have TikTok, but
you don't have the Tiki Talk?
Yeah. I do, but only through
every night.
I do, but I only got it through what is it? Facebook Reels. That's the only one it has. So I don't literally have a TikTok app, but I catch TikTok videos.
Shame on you.
Never.
I will not conform.
No shame. I will not conform.
So anything good going on this week? As you're lecturing?
No, dude. I mean, I've just been. Well, I do have the finally got to catch Sinners. I literally bought it streaming. So tomorrow, me and you're gonna jam on that session.
Dude, we can dive into so much crap on that. There is so much folklore like buried in that thing that you got to know what you're looking at.
There is, but I found a lot of plot holes that made me go, all right. You
Maybe
are burned.
Cinch those plot holes up for you because you don't know the particular history.
You might. I wouldn't doubt it. If anybody can cinch things up for me, it's you. But other than that, no. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. I went to a barbecue at like noon, and everyone's treating noon like it's not first thing in the morning, which it is for me. So I'm like, what? All right, well, everybody's partying and acting like it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But
well, not everybody.
Other than that, I've been straight. How you been?
Okay, I've been okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't have a job right now, so I get to live it up. And it was funny because I got back from it, and my nephew and my son, they didn't even wake up till like 7 in the afternoon. Like they partied all night, hanging out, playing video games.
7 the next night. 7 in the
tonight,
evening.
Yeah, like yeah, they
the evening.
So. Yes. Yeah. Well, evening, whatever. But yeah, they didn't even wake up, because Jen was like, oh, you got to get back and make sure the kids eat and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right. So I got back at like 2 or something and chilled and watched some movies and stuff. And then they didn't even come out of the room till like 7. They're like,
well, I do have to say, like, hats off to you for being vertical still after attending a barbecue in the middle of the afternoon.
Thank you. I thought I was getting
Thank you for being longevity in there this afternoon. Leaving me high and dry.
How I roll.
So
never, Monica, never.
I know you wouldn't. I am going to bring up our guest because tonight our guest is Ullerson, and he is the property owner at Dogman Ranch. And I know that if you've listened to me at any point in time over the last 6-8 months, you've heard Tex and I, at the very least, talking about Dogman Ranch and all the crazy things that go on there. I had the good fortune to spend another day out there. I really didn't stay the night because I'm too old to be camping in the heat. I can't do that shit anymore. But I did spend the full day there, and there was some interesting things that happened the night right before we left in the evening. But I'm going to bring on Ullerson, and we're going to talk to him and let him tell us all about Dogman Ranch. Hey, Ullerson.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for asking me. So, uh, we're wanting to start with beginnings.
Yeah, I think that it would be good because all people know about it, obviously. We're tight-lipped about where it's located and a lot of details about it. Um, all they know is what Tex and I tell them, and it's the spooky things that we have witnessed or experienced there. So the land itself goes back quite a ways in your family, I believe. So I figured we'd start with that, like how your family came into acquisition of it and the things that have happened to the family over the years.
So, extended family, the land in this area, basically ancestral cousins or whatever you want to call it, acquired the land back early 1800s. My great grandfather ended up purchasing the little bit of the homestead that we have left back in the late 1800s, about 1896, I believe. He was actually born in a little cabin that was right next. I mean, it's 600 yards from where the house I'm living in. So he was born back 1860s there.
Okay.
So the family's been here for a very long time. I mean, he was still growing up fighting Indians on the place. Yeah. In fact, I mean, he sat there and watched the Comanche burying their dead over on one of the hills over here. So
That's
it's
fascinating.
definitely a lot of bloodshed over through this area and everything else. It's right along the same area as what the cattle drives were always run through.
Mhm.
Uh, the area y'all camp at down there is one of the easiest places to cross that creek. And
Sure.
so, therefore, that was also most likely where the Comanches would ambush.
Haunted. It's
Tex
haunted.
picked out a great spot.
Well, it is actually a really good spot, and it's an excellent ambush spot. The only other place that I've been on personally, obviously, you have quite a few acres. I'm sure that your original homestead encompassed a vast swath
Yeah.
of land compared to
Yeah.
what's there now. But the only other place that I would be interested in camping would be the old homestead, like actually
Yeah.
at the old homestead. Because that's another place that looks, well, I don't know about crossing the creek, but it definitely is easy access down there. I mean, you can see the
Yeah.
cattle that already go.
That was actually where the original creek crossing was 50, 60 years ago. And then whenever the oil field kind of came in,
Mhm.
they moved the creek crossing to that other spot. Both of them were kind of a natural cutout for the creek as far as we're going through there. Obviously, through the years, the erosion has made that original one where it's, unless you have something that's set up for rock crawling, you're not going to do it.
Mhm.
But
It's beautiful, but it's shaded. It's spooky for sure. I mean, those bodark trees over where we thought that grave would be. We were investigating that first night I was there.
yeah,
That in itself is just I'm not there's something in there. There's something in those woods. And people, I've got to tell you, we talk about Dogman. It's called Dogman Ranch, but there's more than just Dogman floating around this ranch. Texas had an experience with a crawler, and Ullerson obviously has had experiences with those. There's Fae. There's a lot of Fae on that property, and there for sure there's a lot
a
of Fae.
lot of them, and they like those bodog trees.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And I would say that it's not necessarily like a Sealy court thing. I would say it's more, if you're going by the courts, it'd be more of an unsealy hanging out in that area.
Yeah, definitely not the nice ones.
No.
Of course, none of them are nice, but
well, some of them are more tolerant than others. I wouldn't really want to jack with any
I've been told by people that there's elementals. I've been told by people that there's obviously, I know there's a lot of paranormal going on as far as ghosts and things of that such. But I mean, just some of the weird things that I've seen over the years that I've pushed out of my mind. Like, nope, I imagined that. Nope, nope, I didn't see that. That was just figment of imagination. And then, of course, my friends go, I saw that too. Well,
And you're like, dude, I'm trying to like not have nightmares. I'm trying to be
yeah,
okay with being here.
yeah, exactly. You know, and it's kind of one of those things. If you see these little things that look like Ewoks, don't go up and try to hug them.
Mhm. Yeah, no,
They're
don't do
not
that.
friendly.
Duly noted. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Especially, you know what? So I found it's like bouncing around in my noggin because I saw a new creature video about a creature that I had never heard of before, and it is a South African water spirit, and it looks
Mhm.
just like a puckwudgie. It looks just
Mm.
like those little vicious turds, but it's a water spirit, and so it hangs out near water, and they're short and furry. They look like one of the critters things, really, with legs, and they've got sharp teeth, and they are known for like chomping on people and dragging them down, obviously dragging them into the water. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to me because there clearly we talk about the creek. Water is a very prominent thing on this property. And I wonder, you know, these spirits that are similar all over the world, obviously different names, but they're very similar things. I don't know if they're spirits. I don't know if they're a type of fae. I'm leaning towards a type of fae. Um, but it's interesting to me when I saw that, I immediately thought of puckwudgies and then I thought of the ranch and the potential for those things to be there.
It, I haven't seen any in over 25 years, but I have seen the little bastards, and they are not friendly. And there's
No.
usually more than one. I think the group that my friends and I saw, there was probably five or six um, that they apparently were not expecting a group of teenagers to be armed.
Well,
I
yeah.
mean,
But
so
considering the history, because this is a pretty rural property. It's not near any big major cities. There's not,
yeah,
and it's pretty remote. You know, there's nobody just accidentally stumbling onto your camp if you're camped down by the creek. I mean,
exactly.
so I would imagine that any creature that was inhabiting that land would have limited exposure to other people, you know, or other people outside of your family. So they would be silly to think that you wouldn't be armed. Is the point I'm making. I feel that your
Yeah,
family
you would
over the
think that.
generations was not unarmed. You know?
Yeah, I mean, even I mean, heck, my father bought me my first pistol whenever I was 10 years old. I had my first rifle at 6. So it, it's kind of one of those things of anytime I went down in the woods, I was always armed. Of course, he never wanted me to go down there anywhere near dark or anything else. He always wanted me to be up at the house before dark. He didn't want me going down in the woods unarmed. He
Sure.
always said because of, mountain lions, bobcats, coyotes, something like that. But it was just one of those things. And then looking back on it, all the stories and everything that my grandmother would tell me and everything else, it all kind of lines up to
Hmm.
being okay. There's something else in there that they knew about.
Sure. So what are, if you're willing to share, what are some of the stories that your grandmother would tell you that are lining up now?
So a lot of the paranormal stuff. So basically, in the house, her house, she would smell cigar smoke and the whole Prince Edward tobacco smoke. She would smell that, and she would see his shadows. She always said that there were the forest people or the woodland people would not take too kindly to somebody being in their area. And we always thought it was just her trying to scare us not to be in there in the dark, down in the woods.
Hmm.
And she'd tell us that my dad would be down in there from sun up to sundown, but he'd always be back before dark.
Sure.
Uh, the whole tapping on the windows was a common thing, and she would say that stuff would be tapping on the windows and trying jiggling the doors and stuff like that in the middle of the night. And
Mhm.
again, we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's not people going to be out there doing that.
But no,
And
not if they don't want a butt full
yeah,
of buckshot, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of one of those things that, she would give us those kind of stories as far as that goes.
Did she ever make any recommendations for leaving offerings while you're down there?
No.
No.
Mhm.
Somebody was making comments on, it sounds very indigenous. And yeah, the Comanche were definitely on the land, um, at least near the creeks. Now, from your house to the creek, I haven't spent a ton of time over on your property, so I don't know how far it is from your house to
1 mile.
1
As
mile.
far as the crow flies, it's 1 mile.
Okay. Because I know
How how
go ahead.
big is this property? Like, what are we talking? I'm trying to get like a visual of it.
2,000 acres.
Yeah.
Jeebus H. Cribbus. Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent chunk of land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This-
Technically, I own 100, or I own 50 of that between me and my cousins. But as far as the rest of it, it was all at one point in time family land. It sold off throughout the year. Now, with the current owners, we do have permission to be on it for the time being, kind of thing. So that's the reason why we have limited time as far as what we're able to explore in those areas.
No, and I hate that we're getting into the summer months because I'm not kidding when I say I cannot camp. I just can't not sleep in the heat. And I don't know, like I can't deal with
yeah. No.
I
I
can't
don't
sleep.
blame you.
I can't sleep. I can't fall asleep if I'm hot. When I was a kid, sure, whatever. I mean, it was uncomfortable, but I could power through it. Now, I just can't. But I'm saying that because I would love to spend a lot more time out there, as you would, you and your family would allow us to. But it's just stifling, y'all. I mean, even with the creek right there, it's stifling.
Well, with the creek being as shallow as it is, it gets warm quick.
Yeah. It was like tepid bathwater when we were trudging through it.
Oh yeah, and with all the rain and everything we had gotten, it's not clear at the moment. It takes it about a week or two after the heavy rains to clear up.
Yeah, I mean, I figured as much. I told Tex like later in the summer, August-ish, when there is no rain, um, might be a better time because he's that. And when I tell people this creek is clear, I mean this creek when it's not raining is crystal clear. It's got to be spring fed. I mean, it's incredibly clear,
This
and
creek is clear.
this water is clear. Yes. But
Sorry.
it's very inviting because I can tell you when I was there in November and it was cold as hell, I was like, that looks like, I mean, if I see clear water, I want to get into it, even though it's like 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Does it have that effect where it looks more shallow because it's so
Yes.
clear?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because it's one of the deeper spots that Tex wants to go kind of swimming in. When it's at its normal level, it's probably about 3.5 feet, maybe 4 foot deep. And if you're looking at it from up top, it looks like it's maybe 2 foot at best.
Yeah. It looks,
But whenever you start walking in there, then it starts to get up to about right here
yeah.
at the deepest, where I guess it'd be closer to 4 foot there. But yeah, it's very clear. It's great water to go fly fishing in.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine there are definitely fish in there. I mean, it was semi clear when I was there and we could see some of the smaller fish, the minnows. Um, there are some rock formations that I was unfortunately touching. I don't like water that I can't see through, and I am like very quickly got
Yeah.
out of the creek at that point because
Yeah,
I don't want a snapping turtle latching onto me, and they've got to be there.
they are. I've seen a few of them,
Yeah,
but it's one of those things of the water is definitely it's definitely fun.
Yeah, it is. But that's just one feature of the property. I mean, like I
Yeah,
said, it's a gorgeous piece of property and what's in store for
it's got
everyone.
the old growth trees that are down
Mhm.
there in the bottom that are, I mean, something you would expect in Georgia or somewhere like that,
Yeah.
and just massive oaks and
Like century
everything.
trees, like they
Yeah.
centuries.
Oh
There's
yeah.
an oak tree down near the homestead that I have a picture of. I think it's on my Facebook page back the last November. Um, I don't even think I could get the whole tree in one shot without making everything else look this big in it because the
Yeah.
branches on this thing are so massive. Um, it's an incredible piece of land. But getting back to the the creatures in the stories of the creatures and the experiences of the creatures. Jojo asked, doesn't Ullerson have a name for one of his dogmen, like Clifford or something?
Yeah. Well, we originally started calling all of them Spooky Clifford, just because they're a big dog and they tend to be spooky. But the main one, the big silver one, is kind of the one that we refer to as Clifford now. Um, he's, if I had to guess, I'd probably say that would be the alpha of the pack. That's the biggest one. He's probably easily 8 to 8.5 foot tall. Massive.
Mm,
That's I'm pretty sure that's the one where I have the picture of the track that's 9 inches
mhm.
across. So uh, that would be him. And like I, after the initial run in with them and us figuring out kind of where we fit with one another, cohabiting the area,
Mhm.
we I'm not afraid of them. I
Mhm.
respect them. I understand that they're a predator animal, but I treat them like I would any other predator animal out there. Now,
So, what was your initial interaction with these guys, or with Clifford specifically?
so with Clifford, I didn't see him the first time. The first time it was a solid black one. Our dogs were, and that's the recent time. Kind of, I've started remembering that I've seen them before when I was younger and teenagers, and had them running around us in the fields whenever my friends were out there. We just kind of ignored them. You could see them out of the corner of your eye, but you couldn't see them if you looked straight at them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so back then, of course, there was no internet and everything else, so we really couldn't research them much other than looking through the old books in the library. But the recent time, whenever this really happened, was I was getting ready to go to work, um, and the dogs didn't want to go outside at all. They were freaking out. They just would not go outside whatsoever. They'd go to the door, they'd stop, and they'd whimper and then run back and go under their kennels. So I'm thinking, okay, we have a mountain lion outside, something like that. All right. I, I have my work flashlight and my duty pistol, which is just a simple Glock Model 22, which is a 40 caliber. Go outside. I start shining the flashlight out around. I happen to see eyes shine. I'm like, well, but there shouldn't be a cow there. That doesn't look right, because the eyes were spaced out about like what a cow would be.
Sure.
And so I start walking down to it. And I'm like, if one of the cows got loose or something like that, okay, cool. I can figure that out and I'll deal with it in the morning when I get back from work. As I'm walking closer and closer, I'm like, no, this thing's laying on the ground. And then I get close enough that I can see it with my flashlight. And whenever I say close enough to see it with my flashlight, I'm using my weapons mounted flashlight at this time. So I'm about 30, 40 foot from it. Here I am looking at this dog or canine that is basically down on the ground. You know how a dog will get down on all fours like it's going to try to pounce on something.
Right.
And it's broadways to me, and it's facing and paying more attention to what our horse and mule are doing in their pen instead of paying attention to me.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, I see it as a predator, and I see that it's looking at my livestock. So naturally, I put a shot into it broadside, which should have been a kill shot, plain and simple. I hit it center mass, right where the heart and lungs should have been, using my Hornady critical duty loads. So we're talking about ammunition that should be able to knock down anything in the state of Texas.
Sure.
You can see the impact. This thing gets up on all fours, turns and looks at me, and then stands up on its hind legs. At this point, I'm just sitting here like, well, shit. A couple of choice words, and then just say, well, Valhalla, here I come. I take 2 more steps towards it, line up my next 3 shots. I do 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the head. That's how I was trained. That's what I'm supposed to do. You can see they hit. On the 3rd shot, where it hits its head, it kind of does this, shakes its head, looks at me, and just walks away like it's annoyed with me.
Is it still on 2 legs?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It just kind of walks away. And I'm like, okay.
All right.
Well, in for a penny, in for a dollar. So I go to where it was to look to see if I could find blood or anything else, because it should have had blood there.
Sure.
1, 2 drops, maybe. Really not much, just a little bit. And it not near as much as what should have been.
Right.
So I kind of back up the hill and back up towards the house and get inside, go change my underwear, and then get ready to go to work again.
Right.
Because I'm sorry,
That's reasonable for anybody.
I'm right there with you if I wore underwear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even gone to look for blood, dude.
Yeah.
I'd have just had to change my whole Jinkos.
Yeah. So, I got changed, and the whole night I'm sitting here working. Of course, I'm at a site that's outside, so I'm sitting in my car, and I have to go do walk rounds on the outside, and it's next to the wilderness and another creek that actually is fairly close and ties into, the woods and everything that are around my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, did this thing follow me? I know I'm 17, 18 miles away, but did this thing follow me? So the whole night I'm sitting here freaking out on it, and I'm trying to figure out what it was. So I'm searching the internet, everything else, and I'm like, this thing looked like a damn werewolf. I mean, plain and simple. I was thinking, okay, well, there used to be Indians around here, maybe a skinwalker, something like that, I ended up getting on Facebook, and I found a Appalachian cryptid page or something like that. Either way, it was one of the first pages I found. So I described what it was and told them, hey, what am I looking at? What am I dealing with here? And that was the first time I heard of a Dogman. And I was told to reach out to a certain podcaster about that.
Okay.
Did not have the best experience with that. So I was kind of hesitant on it and everything. And
Sure.
we continued to have experiences with them. A little after that, about a month or so went by after that, and I'm down in a pop-up deer stand, and my wife's coming in from the work, and she calls me. She goes, "Hey, there's something coming down there towards you. It's big. It looks like a big old deer." is massive. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm getting ready for it. Yeah. And the only gun, okay, so the guns I have with me, because I'm in a pop up stand and I'm not 50 yards from where I had a little feeder set up, because this is Texas. We don't actually hunt, we bait. And I had a lever action 45 long Colt. That's what I was hunting deer with,
Okay.
because I wasn't shooting 200 yards. I wasn't doing any long range with it. I did have a pig gun with me, which that probably would have worked on this thing if it was close, maybe, because
Sure.
it well, I mean, it was Russian machine gun is what it was. 7.62 by 25, the PPSH 43. So 50 rounds of some really nasty ammo that works great on pigs whenever there's 20 or 30 of them. You can put a lot of ammo out there and lay a lot of carnage out.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that might have actually gave me half a chance against this thing if it was close enough. But 200 yards away on the other side of the field is where this thing comes out of the fence line, out of the trees. It comes out the fence and its shoulders are at the top rung of the barbed wire fence. And I actually recorded it with my phone. It's an iPhone 11 is what it was at that time. So not the best quality, especially at dusk, 200 yards away, trying to zoom in and see this thing. But you can see it move across, stop, and then stand up. And it's like,
Okay.
at that point in time is whenever it stood up and looked straight at me is whenever I said, yeah, it's time to pack up and go home. So that's what I did. That night we decided to go get some dinner in town. We were going to leave, and it's right before we were going to cross one of the cattle guards, I happened to see something on the other side of it that didn't look right. So I hit the brakes before I got across it. And my wife didn't have a good feeling. I didn't have a good feeling. It was just kind of one of those, something didn't feel right. This felt like an ambush. Something's not right. And so whenever I get out of the truck, I have my pistol drawn already. My wife has her pistol drawn. She's in the truck, kind of keeping an eye on things and watching my back and watching around. Something had taken the barbed wire. We have coils of barbed wire, and we'd hang them up on the fence next to areas that we always had breakage.
Sure.
And something had taken that coil of barbed wire off of the fence and uncoiled it across the road to where if you drove over it, it was going to wrap up over your axles.
Ugh.
So it was booby trapped.
That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart.
And my wife just had the feeling to take a picture. She took a picture. Sure enough, behind the gas well equipment, you can see the silhouette of a canine with its ears and everything else. Well, this gas well equipment is about 3.5 foot high off the ground, and this thing's about 1.5 foot above that. And it looks like it's just sitting behind there. And she took 2 pictures. One, it wasn't there. One, it was. So it's things like that. Later on, I was heading to another job, going to work, and as I'm pulling through, there's an area on the driveway where it's heavily treed on each side. You have a fence with a tree line on this side, and then on this side, it's all trees. I'm pulling through, and here comes this big boy. This would be Clifford. Walks out right in front of me on 2 legs, to where I stop in the road, and I'm between trees. And he just walks out right in front of me, and I'm like, all right, this is the same type of method that was used overseas. Something walks out in front of you and stops you, and you get hit from both sides.
Yep.
So I'm sitting here, and I have my hand on the steering wheel still. I'm sitting here watching it, and without moving my head, I'm kind of doing this number of trying to look around and see where it is without turning my head. And sure enough, I catch movement out of this side. and I see that it's, coming up and getting closer and closer to the car. And about the time, I've already reached over, grabbed my pistol out of my duty belt,
Hmm.
and I'm sitting here and I just put it under my arm to where it's not really visible very well and have it pointing in that general direction. And about the time it walks out, I turn the light on it. Well, come to find out, this is the one I shot before because it has missing part of its nose.
Okay.
It looks like I got it right on the snout part because you could see the teeth really well. It had a nasty scar.
You gave him a little snuggle, like,
Yeah, gave him a cleft lip.
there you go.
And I'm going to guess it's probably the female, but it snarls even more at me. And the only way I can describe it is the one in front of me, it looks like it started laughing. Just the body movement, like it was laughing.
Shoulders, yeah.
Yeah, the shoulders moving up and down, and it kind of shaking its head like that, and it just turns and starts walking back into the wood. The other one kind of glares at me, and you can tell it growls, and it just turns and walks away, like that didn't work. So it's testing me.
Sure.
That's the only thing I can come up with is it was testing me, and then yeah, it scared the living hell out of me, but I'm going to make sure it remembers me when it's cold.
Right. Well, I mean, it's interesting because they're displaying like a serious level of intelligence that I think a lot of people don't subscribe or ascribe to a lot of these creatures, right? They think that they're just animals, or maybe they have some intelligence, but this is like a pretty high level of intelligence.
Have you ever seen terriers hunt?
No.
Like actual working terriers?
No, I haven't seen a working terrier. I've seen other working dogs, but not a terrier.
All right. So working terriers, whenever you get them and turn them loose on rats, they will do this.
Mm-hmm.
They will actually set traps and funnel the rats in to the rest of the pack where they can just slaughter them.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, they are extremely intelligent. They will push their prey into a box. They will set up ambushes. They will do things like that. And or you can even think of like the raptors, like they always show on Jurassic Park. Same kind of thing. When your attention is drawn to one, there's more coming up on you. And
well, that's a classic ambush, right? That's,
yeah, it's a classic one. I mean, there's a lot. Okay, so they're an ambush predator. So is a mountain lion. Mountain lion gets in a tree and waits for you to go underneath it and drops on you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's animalistic behavior, definitely, but they also have a lot more intelligence to them than what your average animal would have.
Sure. Well, I agree. But I mean, I think that these cryptids, so my experience, at least through the stories I've heard, are specifically with dogmen that they try to invoke fear, because there are plenty of stories where these things had plenty of opportunity to just take you
annihilate
out.
Yeah.
I mean, they are clearly superior in strength and, muscle, everything, right? So they could completely take people out if they so desired. But what they're doing rather than that is toying with them, kind of cat and mouse. They're making you fearful. And it makes me wonder if there isn't some kind of energy transference through that fear, if they're feeding on it in a manner of speaking.
It might be.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're so intelligent, they're just like, watch this, Bob. Go and freak you out to see if they can get you to crap your pants,
Yeah.
Right. Or even like almost kind of like an energy vampire type of thing, like, feeding off the essence of it, just a thought.
Possibility.
So, yeah, Jojo wants to know what you, Ullerson, what you think the dogmen are. Do you think that they're flesh and blood? Do you think they're a type of fae? Do you think that they're a spiritual thing?
I think they're Loki's offspring.
Okay.
That's cool, dude. I never. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so one of Loki's
You
children
just moved
in
my
the Norse
nugget.
mythology was Fenrir.
Yeah.
Fenrir had offspring of upright and talking wolves.
Hmm.
It's in the mythology from
I would,
800s.
I'd buy
You
that.
Dude, I
have-
never.
Then whenever you're dealing with Bigfoot and all those, okay, the Jotun. Jotun were described as all kinds of different things. They were big, small, nasty disposition, able to do magic where they could fade in and out, they could cloak, they could disappear, they could make themselves look like something else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they can do all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
at least through
Dude,
the stories, if you're listening, through everybody's encounters, everybody has obviously something different happen. But if you group them all together, that's, I mean, all of those things happen.
Dude,
So-
that you actually that got my mind flowing, man. I never put those two and two together, but that, yeah, I can dig it. I mean, not kicking it out of bed. I'm going to subscribe until it proves its point against me.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
dig it.
you can
That's-
look and read all the mythology, all of the old
Yeah.
books and
No,
everything else that described it and described their mannerisms, their behavior, what they like to do. They like to toy with humans. So
No, I agree.
it's
Hats off to that one.
kind of one of those things of like, okay, well, the shoe fits.
Sure.
Lace it up.
So
So Jojo, who is just in love with this topic and this particular chunk of land through the story she's heard thus far, has another question. She wants to know,
I think one of the juveniles was seen over on the farm to market road
oh yeah, when?
right before that chopper showed up.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure of it.
All right. So the question I'll read out loud for the people that are listening, as opposed to watching, is Jojo says, "I'm curious about the black unmarked choppers and how they'd know about Dogman Ranch. Does Ullerson think they are microchipped or government monitored?" So Ullerson thinks that one of the juveniles was seen out on the farm to market. So are they more prolific a certain time of year? Like, because
Wintertime.
wintertime, I was going to say, because I didn't really get any Dogman-y vibes while we were out there this past weekend. Now, there
Yeah,
are other
Pops.
things. Huh?
Pops was saying they were out there when they first got there, but usually when it starts getting warmer, I don't see them. I always thought they just went into the cooler areas because, well, I mean, they're big, hairy, and it's got to suck. So, but now I'm starting to wonder about that because during the summertime, you see more of these other things running around. And when you do see or have the feeling of the dog man or whatever, they seem to stick together tighter. They don't venture out away from the pack as
Right.
much.
More
They
pack
stay,
mentality.
yeah, they stay tighter together. Like there's, I mean, honestly, it's almost they act like there's something out there that they're scared of.
Sure. And so that's going to lead into what I was going to say next is there's more, as we spoke about earlier, there's more than just Dogman on this ranch. We call it Dogman Ranch because I mean, I was there. Okay. So Ullerson met Tex at the Dogman conference that Josh Turner put on. Right. And I was sitting next to Tex when Ullerson first walked up to Tex to describe what was going on at the property. So I remember I was just so curious, and I followed up with Tex like later on. I was like, did you ever follow up with that? Because I was like, I want to go there. So the first mention of the ranch that we got was specifically you were relaying some Dogman activity that had been happening around the ranch. But there are other things there, like specifically these, a lot of people call them white crawlers. We just call them crawlers.
I originally called them ghouls.
Yeah, ghouls. And I wouldn't doubt that they are something similar, maybe they are ghouls. Heck, I don't know. It makes sense. But Tex had an encounter with one. You guys think it threw him off the porch, grabbed him and pulled him off the porch. Was it the house or the barn that he was at?
It was at the barn.
The barn.
So
And
he went up the steps and essentially was antagonizing it because Tex.
What he does.
Yeah, and he turned around and something got my attention where I looked away. And but my wife was still watching Tex, and whenever he went to go take a step off, something reached up, grabbed, and did that around his ankle. And he didn't fall down the steps. He ended up landing about 5 foot away from them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of force for Tex. I mean,
that's quite a bit of strength to be tossing Tex at all.
Especially one-handed.
Yeah.
So
and from crouched position. Yeah.
Yeah. And because whenever I turned around, of course, I hear the commotion. I turn around and I see something about same size as me staying to the ground. I mean, it's like almost army crawling, only this high off the ground. And it just scurries off into the stinking thicket. And that's whenever I asked Tex for the actual description of what he saw. Because at first, he just said, I saw some gray thing go running up. And I'm like, okay. And then I asked him for the actual description. And that's whenever he told me, he goes, well, it was about the same size as a person. It went up the side of the wall. It was this gray. It didn't make a noise or anything else. I said, okay. Yeah, I've dealt with these before. And he's about that time is whenever all the color ran out of my face and everything else. And the rifle that was just slung on my shoulder was not slung on my shoulder anymore.
Sure.
So I do not like these things. There is very little chance you're going to come out on top whenever you're dealing with one of these things, much less if you're dealing with multiples.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely a terrifying creature. Just when they are close, it gives you this sick feeling in your gut, just a knot. Like, I mean, just something's not right. And that gives you cold sweats. It's just definitely something that shouldn't belong.
So, I mean, I want to see one. I haven't encountered them, but I want to talk about this last weekend that we were all there, even though I was only there for a day. People were there for multiple days. That was not me. But the night that I was there, you and me, your wife and friend, and my husband and
Nick
were all out there on the road. And we were walking from where we camp down a dirt road. Immediately after camp, there's a field on one side and trees and a creek on the other for a good chunk of that road, heading towards the homestead. And at one point, the field disappears and you've got trees on both sides. And off to the left is a pretty decent copse of trees. And there's a cemetery back in there, correct? You guys found a cemetery in there? Yep. And Nick was getting some really weird readings on his thermal.
Yeah, right? And it's pretty bad. I was telling them where to look.
Yeah. And
I knew where they were at, but...
Well, this is what's interesting is Nick had his thermal set to black is hot and white is cold, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And he was seeing white. What he was seeing wasn't black. It wasn't throwing off heat. It was throwing off cold.
Yep.
which is
So
interesting.
what he was seeing was a good 20 to 30 degrees cooler than the ambient temperature.
Yeah.
And it was, what little he could see, it was about 6 foot tall. And it would kind of go from tree to tree and poke around the tree. So it was following us.
It was. And at one point, we are walking down the road. We pass the homestead. We're going into this area that gives me the creeps. I don't like driving through it. I sure didn't like walking through it. I sure didn't like walking through it unarmed, but I figure I'm surrounded by 4 heavily armed people. I'm okay. And I don't know why I didn't bring my sidearm. I had my sidearm last time. I don't know why this time I wasn't thinking about it. But anyway, it's done.
We had enough to take down just about anything.
Yeah,
It's
I
just a
figured.
matter if we would be able to.
Yeah.
But
So
and
if we're walking into this hollow, essentially, right? And you guys, like, it's hard to explain. Tex filmed there last time, back in November. He caught something kind of peekabooing around a tree at him, and I can't even describe it, y'all. These trees are so thick. There's like really not a lot of there's some vegetation growing under them, but it's a floodplain. It's flat as can be, and these trees are old and dark. And I mean, the trees are dark. Not it's given shade. The trees are dark, and the energy getting thrown off of this general area is just super creepy. So as we're
you
walking,
will experience time loss in that area.
see, I'd be curious. Yeah, I have never experienced time loss before.
So my wife and I went in there, and it was really weird because you can see through them during the day. You can see from the road. You can see to the other field on the other side of them. So it's like, okay, that's only 50s to 100 yards across through here. And you start walking through there, and it feels like you've already walked 50 to 100 yards, and it doesn't look like you got any further. And then you turn back and look, and yeah, you're that far from the. It's almost like as soon as you walk in there, they expand,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and it just gets bigger and everything else, and you're in there. And we thought we were in there for 30, 40 minutes, and we get back and look, we were in there for 3 hours exploring around. There's archways all over the place in there. And whenever I say archways, I'm talking about where something took a boat arch tree and warped it to where it would arch and it would go down to the ground. And you'll see trails going to them, but not going through it and to the other side. So it's like, okay, that's a little weird. And again, like I said, you will definitely lose track of time in that area of woods.
All right.
That's also the area where he was looking through there, and he was seeing some of the trees that were showing white.
Yeah, which was interesting to me because you would think that trees would at minimum be ambient, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dead trees going to be ambient.
Yeah.
Really, any of them should be ambient or warmer. But they were showing cold, and
Yeah.
it was so bizarre. Like, and Nick, who is really he's a young guy, is really
Extremely skeptic.
yeah, extremely skeptic, and like
Extremely skeptic.
yeah, because he was talking about I'll go in there, I'll walk it. And then let me tell you, we got not even a quarter of the way down the road. Something growled at us to the right. Right. It was off to our right.
Yeah.
And we all stopped, and Nick got down on a knee and was looking straight ahead. The road kind of bends, but he was looking off into the trees because he was looking straight. And that's when he saw white, like trees showing cold, and he was seeing something kind of in between the trees, like doing
Shimmering.
this. Yeah, kind of shimmering. And he was like, nope, no, I'm good. And I was like, you don't want to walk in there? You don't want to go down into the woods? He was very bold about it.
Yeah. And that's also whenever he started noticing that there was more than just one of those things that was out there. as far as the cold spots that was moving that was humanoid shape.
Yeah.
So that was whenever we decided to kind of go back, and I whatever growled at us on the right, I got the impression that it was trying to tell us turn around, go back now.
Yeah.
Um, that it wasn't more so of threatening us, that it was warning us.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, then he's sitting here, and I've told him I've used thermal on them before, and I've never been able to pick up the Dogman on them. It's really weird because you'll have perfect, 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 fuzzy, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, well, where's the Dogman? Fuzzy.
And the fuzzy part. Yeah.
Yeah, where your equipment's malfunctioning. That's where it's at. And so he starts looking in the direction where the growl came from. Perfect, 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 fuzzy. Perfect, perfect. And he couldn't figure out why his equipment was messing up in one spot. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's where it's at.
Yeah. Time to
You
go back.
know, and we're shining the flashlights in there, and that's whenever we see movement in there, and it's a something dark and gray that looked
Mhm.
furry was moving back in the thicket. And it's like, yeah, all right, let's go back. And as we're walking back, I'm starting to realize that area that we went through where there's trees that are tied on each side, that's a perfect kill box.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, okay, that's the reason why he was telling us to go back, because those other things were starting to make their way towards it.
Mm.
And then as we're walking back to where we get to where the homestead was, where we actually saw what we thought was a portal the last time you were out.
Yes.
Well, when we walked by there, it all looked normal, no glowing, nothing else. When we were walking back to get back to camp, it was glowing again.
It was. And I have a photo of it that if I had any kind of forethought, I would have preloaded for this show. But yes, I'll show it on future shows. It is a tree line, and you can see it because my camera automatically goes to night mode, where it takes all of the ambient light and gives you as good a photo as possible. And Ullerson's wife actually was the one who was taking photos using the night shot. And I started doing it as well because she's gotten some pretty crazy photos just doing that.
Yeah.
And when we were looking through the trees, and I was thinking, the creek isn't there. It's not like I'm looking, over the creek bed onto the other side where the light shining onto the trees. It's going to make the far creek look brighter, than the foreground. But the creek's not there. The creek's farther back. It's not along the road in that section. So I could not for the life of me figure out, like, logically what was making that section glow.
And what's funny is okay, in those pictures, it's a perfect rectangle, like a door.
Yeah.
And what's glowing on the inside is swirling and changing with every picture.
Mm. Just like, okay, so the portal that we saw back in November, right? It's in that same group of trees. That's what I was seeing. And it looks, y'all, it looked just like looked like Christmas lights, like a perfect archway, of
And
Christmas
then as we're getting up there closer, we have something else that bluff charges us on that sside.
That's
right in that area. That's a perfect kill box.
Let me tell you, I jumped from one side of the road to the other, because it was quiet. It was quiet. And we're standing there, and your wife and your friend are ahead of me, and you and Nick are behind me, and I'm standing closest to the side of the road that the trees, like the cemetery, and all this stuff is going on. And let me tell you, whatever jumped up and ran was not small. It was big. And that's what, the movement startled me, of course, because it was so quiet, but knowing also that was huge, and it kind of grunted, I want to say, when it jumped up. It was more than just rustling. It was like a whoosh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like you said, I had my gun pointed on in a heartbeat. And but and that's also whenever he ended up getting a heat signature in the woods, it was kind of, I guess, interfering with the cold spots. The cold ones, they were coming on to us from that side as well. So they were It was. You definitely had the feeling that you were prey.
Yeah.
So, just not to interrupt, but so what are your thoughts on why the thermal doesn't work and how it interferes with it? Do you think because like okay, so like a lot of people go with the Dogman or Bigfoots or whatever as flesh and blood, but if it was in fact, then it wouldn't interfere with that kind of technology. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like yeah,
Again,
so
if it's
oh well,
Jotun,
okay, the Loki thing, yeah, okay, I got you.
I mean, you're going to have what they call it, glimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
So it's going to affect. It's basically going to be almost like its own EMP, its own electromagnetic field, even.
Right.
Which is probably the reason why whenever you're out there doing these things and you're carrying an EMF reader, it skyrockets.
Yeah.
Well,
That
you want to
makes
know
a
the
lot of
funny
sense.
thing is if you go to an area that has a high EMF field and you try to take a picture of it, it's fuzzy.
Yeah. No, I'll go with that. That
Yeah.
Especially with the new digital cameras.
yeah, no. That's logically sound. I'll put it that way. I dig it.
Well, I mean, I've dealt with military equipment and everything else, and it's kind of the same thing. Anytime you're dealing with a high EMF field, whenever you're going to the areas that had the uh, the high explosions that had EMFs, then you knew that your electronic equipment wasn't going to work right.
Right. Yeah. I dig it.
It's just kind of one of those things. Uh, Looks like JoJo's asking about Bigfoot. No, I have not seen any Bigfoot.
Because
Everything
that's
but Bigfoot.
dog man. That's
You
Dogman
know,
territory.
the pug wedgies, yes, if that's what you want to call them. I didn't know what the hell to call them back then. But
Yeah, the little people, puckwudgies. I mean, probably puckwudgies are more northeast. I think like at least the Ponca tribe up northern Oklahoma. When I was
yeah,
investigating on their land, they called them just the little people.
yeah,
Same thing.
I could go with that. I mean, honestly, they look like Ewoks crossed over with the movie from the things
Critters.
Critters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they look like. They look like critters the size of Ewoks, about 3.5, 4 foot tall.
See, and that's the description of that South African water spirit that I stumbled across in a video the other day. And it's like, I forget the name of it. I want to say it starts with the T, but I'd never heard of this thing before, but it sounded just like your description. And I'm like, it's fascinating to me that these creatures are popping up just all over the world. Like they're similar descriptions of people, traditional people that don't have contact, but they're seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's got to
Yeah.
be something to it.
Well,
Well,
that's what we talk about a lot is whenever connection through separation of land and especially separation of time. So if
yeah.
like you got thousands of years of people spotting these critters, creatures, or whatever, cryptids, whatever you want to call them. If you got them, especially back in the gap before there was communication between the continents, then if you're seeing the same sightings and people aren't phoning home to other people about it, then you obviously you stumbled onto something there. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not just with the internet and stuff like that, and telecommunications, you have um instantaneous information between individuals. But back then, unless you wanted to take like a 2-month voyage,
Right.
on a sailboat, you know what I mean? And there's,
2 months was a close trip.
No
yeah, a
kidding.
close trip, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So JoJo was asking about ley lines.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jojo asked, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure there's several of them through the area. kind of a crossing area. But
What is your opinion of ley lines? I mean, do you buy into the fact, or
buy into the fact of what?
of ley lines?
Being energy sources, and that energy
Energy sources, yes.
Yeah, and that like energies, like whether they're fae or cryptid or whatever psychic energies even, are drawn to the ley lines or enhanced at a ley line.
I would definitely say most likely, yeah. I mean, I've been to several spots that were supposed to be considered ley line areas, and I'd get the same static electricity field that I do down in those woods.
Okay. So Wedge asked, I wonder what could be filmed if a drone was flown into that swirl that we were talking about earlier with the portal.
The drone malfunctions.
That's what I was going to think, just off the top of my nugget.
I've actually tried using it whenever we were looking for the cemetery. And up by the house, the drone works fine. You get a good picture, everything else. The controls work great, all that stuff. I take it down there. The video's static. The drone, it has a mind of its own, and is going all over the place and is extremely difficult to control. And there's no wind. So tell me why this thing is trying to go off to the side.
Right. Well, if you're talking electromagnetic frequencies, and that'll also blend in with RF frequencies. So, you know, like when you go into that side of the scientific or the physiological method about it, right? Then, yeah, like your normal stuff, like you're saying about the thermal, normal stuff's not gonna, well, normal, but technology is not going to work the same, you know, within that realm or that field, especially if there's interference is not normal to what we expect for regular technology. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, okay, a fun trick to do around those RC planes and the drones and everything else is if you have a big CB radio, one of the high-powered CB radios, and you key that down, you're going to see all these planes and drones fall out of the sky.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. It's very fun.
And it's the same as back in the Gap when we used to play when I was a teenager. We used to play with CB radios, and you take those big amplified antennas, and you can literally watch it back before, you know, cable and satellite and stuff. But if you put it on your TV on channel 3, you know what I mean, you could literally hear yourself over. You could hear yourself over the channel. Yeah, especially
if you amped it up.
I wasn't that bored. I wasn't that bored, apparently.
Well, we had our own TV station until the FCC started roaming around the neighborhood.
Yeah, they get a little upset about that.
Yeah, they're not fans.
Looks like JoJo's asking about UFO activity.
Yes.
I honestly can't say yes or no on that one. There's an airport that's
it's close.
10, 15 miles from here. There's a couple of small airports as well, as far as private airports that are close by. So you have lights in the sky all the time.
But they're pretty clearly planes that I've witnessed.
Yeah, most everything I've seen has been planes and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly tell it's an airplane. It's not something unidentifiable.
Exactly.
That I've witnessed.
I can't say anything that I would try to claim was a UFO. I mean,
that's fair.
Really.
That's fair. There's enough going on. You don't need UFOs on top of it. You know, you're dodging Dogman and ghouls. You don't want to worry about alien abduction on top of all of that.
Why put
Yeah.
some more on top
Trying
of
not
the
to
cake?
stumble through fairy portals, dodging. Yeah.
Yeah. We got gnomes and dogmans. We don't need aliens. Just calm down.
We're good. We're good. So, Wedge asks, have you had any ghost or poltergeist activity on the property?
Yes.
I know the answer
Lots
to
of it. Lots of it. Let's see. Was hog hunting one night, setting up on top of our shop. So I was laid out up on top of the shop. I had thermal for spotting with. I had night vision on my rifle. At this point in time, there was a manhunt for a person. He had shot a police officer. There was a $10,000 bounty on him.
I'd be on the roof too.
So it was kind of one of those things of like, oh well, if I see him walking by, I'll make a quick 10 grand,
Quick
whatever.
10 grand.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time I've done something like that. So let's go for it. And I'm up there, and of course the horses go off at something. I'm like, oh, okay, well, something's got them stirred up. So maybe the pigs are walking around over there. So I pull the thermal up and I look out through there. I see a deer. Well, the deer's sitting here huffing at something. So I keep looking, and well, here's a person walking by. And I'm like, okay. Not there. Cannot see him through the night vision. Pull the thermal back up. Still there walking by. All right, this don't make sense. So I'm sitting here just kind of going back and forth between the two, trying to figure out what's going on. Why am I not able to see him through the night vision, but I can see it through the thermal? And about that time, I'd give up on the night vision. I'm just going to watch through the thermal. And I'm like, well, either way, it's going to be funny. He's about to walk into a barbed wire fence. Walks right through it like it's not even there. Walks about another 30 feet and then just fades out.
Yeah. Well.
That time I just start packing up stuff. I've seen this movie. I'm going to bed.
Yep.
Hey, no, that's my line. I've seen this horror movie. I'm leaving.
Yeah. So the whole time I'm sitting here crawling down the ladder, I'm like, it's going to be right behind me. It's going to be right behind me. I'm going to turn around and it's going to be right there. Luckily, I turn around. It's not there. And I just go in the house. Wife goes, well, did you see anything? Nope, not a damn thing.
Don't even speak it.
Yeah.
Don't give it energy. Don't give it energy.
I mean, we had a slow feeder for the horses that was hung up out there, which was basically like a 35-gallon barrel that had a grate with a weight on top of it that would push the hay down in there. And it's hanging up on a chain to where it should be right about the right height for them. So, if the wind catches it, it's going to sit here and blow and move like that. She came in and hollered at me one night whenever she went out to feed. And I go out there and I look, and it's not windy. It's one of the nights where there's no wind. And here's this barrel just sitting here swinging back and forth, stops, starts swinging in another direction. And the horses are all just sitting here staring at it like, I ain't going near it.
I ain't that hungry.
Yeah. So a lot of paranormal activity has definitely happened in the area. In fact, the room I'm sitting in, we had somebody say that a Ouija board was used and not used correctly, which I wouldn't doubt it. My brother was an idiot. I've been in here on a Zoom meeting with work, and I had it at that time. Yeah, so you can see the saddles there. You can see the hat sitting on top of the saddles. Well, the camera was able to point it in this general direction. The hat started moving on the Zoom meeting. And of course, my boss and his boss were on the Zoom meeting. And they're like, is the AC or something blowing? I'm like, no. Like, well, why is that hat moving? I turn around and look. Frank, knock it off. You're scaring the moguls. So it's just kind of things like that. I mean, in the house, it's a constant. I mean, constant not quite daily, but weekly, something happens and you just ignore it. I mean, the worst. I hate it whenever you're in the shower and they start messing with you in there. I
Dude, that is
Well,
like
hate
so
yeah,
vulnerable. Leave me alone in the shower.
Yeah, because whenever you're in the shower and all of a sudden it looks like a kid's face presses up against the shower curtain,
yeah,
I'm sorry, but I punch it.
I get out of the
yeah.
damn shower. Just
And
And,
it actually feels like you hit something whenever you punch it, and then you're looking back there and you're like, well, there's nothing there. Oh shit. Okay.
I learned his lesson,
yeah.
I guess.
Unless you're the
Uh,
ghost chick from Ghostbusters, stay out of my shower.
but yeah, and it's kind of weird like that. And then the nights I'd be working nights, so I wouldn't be home. My wife would not sleep upstairs. She'd sleep downstairs on the couch because stuff would mess with her. I mean, you will get stuff that was set on the bed, sleep
Mhm.
paralysis and stuff like that. And
Man, I
if
hate that
you
stuff too.
yeah, if you try to sleep in the bedroom alone, something's gonna fuck with you.
Yeah, I lived in a house where something would come into the room nightly,
Oh yeah.
and sit on the bed. Like you could
Yeah,
feel it press down
press
right
down.
next to me. It creeps you out. Like I don't feel threatened. I'm not okay with something I can't see creeping on me while I'm trying to sleep. Just I know you're staring at me, you creepy son of a bitch. Get off my bed.
Bye, Mickey G. Yeah, that one gets me every freaking time. It's happened to me probably a little bit more than one handful of times. I could probably less than 10 fingers, but I can count them on more than one hand. But yeah, those are I don't know. They're they're very surreal. I'll put it that way because
Yeah.
it's not like a sleep paralysis thing. You're not
You gotta
having a
sleep.
nightmare. Yeah, you're like, dude, what? And there's nothing there, but you feel the depression, and whenever it leaves, you feel it rise back
Oh
up.
yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
those. Yeah, no, I'm good. I am good.
So, last question of the night, because I know Ullerson's got a jet. He still has work to do, y'all. He ain't even done with work. He just took a break to talk to us. Um, Jojo asks if you've had any kind of mind speak or psychic communication with. She says Clifford. I'm going to open that up to anything on that property.
Good question.
I can't say if it's mind speak or just intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So the skeptic side of me would say it's just intuition, um, you know, gut feeling, anything along those lines.
Sure.
But as far as it's just like the other night of okay, something's warning us to get the hell back.
Yeah.
Something's telling us to go. You know, I can't say that something said that to me. That's just what popped into my head as far as that goes. So it could be either one. I'm open to the idea that it's possible, but I can't say that it has happened. So
So
Okay.
no obvious auditory where you're actually hearing it like somebody talking in your ear.
yeah.
More of a
Besides hearing disembodied voices, no.
now to follow up that question, so like you got with like Bigfoot, you get like tree knocks and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you tie into the Dogman with
Yeah,
something like
well, we
that
don't know
where
if
it's
it's the
like
Dogman or if it's the Fae or what, but
right.
the glass clinking or metal clinking sound.
Yes,
Okay.
and I heard that.
Yeah.
So Tex and I heard that last. No, I didn't hear it. Well, I didn't stay the night this time, but Tex and I heard that back in November. And
Mhm.
he and I were sitting around the campfire, and um, back off to my right, not completely behind me at like my 4 o'clock. Um, it slopes down into the creek, and it sounded like bottles clinking together, and it made me think of Warriors.
We're coming
Yeah.
out to play.
It reminded me of that. It wasn't as rhythmic, but it was definitely
Right.
like glass clinking together. Tex thought it was more metallic. It sounded glass to me.
Yep.
Everybody is, obviously going to have a different interpretation, but
Yeah.
that's
And I'll hear that pretty often. I think I actually got it on one of the videos. I'll have to go look and see if I do. But I think one of the videos I was recording, one of the times I was hunting, and you start hearing that clinking, and then things really start getting weird.
Mhm.
In fact, I think that was the time I heard those clinkings. I ended up getting a pig, shooting the pig. The pig made it to the fence line and fell. And as I'm walking over to get it, I just see an arm reach out from under the fence, grab it, and pull it under the fence. I'm like, you son of a...
You took my
Fine, I didn't
bacon.
want it anyways. You just saved me
They're
from
like,
having to
thank
clean
you,
it.
sir, making that easy for us.
Yeah. So, well, okay, I don't have to worry about that one then. Thank you. So, but yeah, you'll hear the clinking noises and stuff like that. I've also heard something that sounded like a dumpster getting dragged on concrete.
Ooh,
Um,
that would be out of place there.
yeah, it definitely would. And a lot of the stuff I would think it was just tied to the gas wells and stuff. But the problem is the sounds aren't coming from where the gas wells are,
Well, let me
and they
also
move.
say that the gas well sounds are rhythmic. You can time those.
Yeah,
They're
you
very
can time them.
Right.
And these are not rhythmic or anything else. And I mean, it's the. I mean, I'd almost equate the trash can dragging on the concrete as like something tearing through time, tearing through reality.
Okay, like a portal opening or
Yeah, something along those
Right.
lines, maybe.
Division of dimension or
like
frequency.
energy.
I
Yeah,
get
like
you.
an energy dispersion or something along those lines. I mean,
Right.
Because the trash can being dragged on the concrete is the easiest way to explain it to people that haven't been around explosives.
Sure.
Because otherwise it really sounds like very similar to what happens whenever you have a slow charge go off on something.
Okay.
Primarily like det cord on a door, a metal door.
Okay.
You have your main acoustic boom, but there's also the metal
Vibrational.
shearing vibration.
Yeah.
And it's more like that. It's more like the shearing vibration of it.
Okay.
So
And I will also say that, you hear sounds that are out of place. This is just a general statement.
yeah.
You hear sounds that are out of place, or even something that that maybe the sound, or you can relate it to something like you do, but your intuition and your instinct when you hear those sounds, like you feeling like it's energy displacement, even though it sounds like
Mhm.
something being dragged. I put a lot of stock into your intuition. Whatever it's telling you it is probably what it is, even if it's a very normal sound, but out of place, right? Whatever your mind thinks that is initially, I think is probably what it is a lot of the time. Not every time for sure, but a lot of the time, like your intuition's there for a reason. And I think more people should be following intuition and your gut feelings, and especially in places like this where there's so much activity and there's so much energy and just a lot of everything, your initial gut reaction and instinct telling you this is what you're hearing, but this is what you're associating it with in your mind, even though it might not make sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, because your mind's going to go to the most familiar thing that you can associate it with.
Well,
You
it
know
is,
what I mean?
but he's hearing, like, what I'm saying is, like, he's saying, I think it's energy displacement. It probably is
Right.
energy displacement, even though it sounds like slow detonation or something being drug across concrete. But in his mind, he's like energy displacement. That's what it's.
Yeah.
That's what he's thinking. That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, another good one would be like the depth charges.
Mm-hmm.
That just underwater muffled vibration of an explosion. That would be another good way to describe the sound. But it's definitely, and then the mimics, the mimicking noises. You'll get a lot of those. Most of the time, it's something mimicking an owl.
Yeah.
The
You're not thinking owl, you're thinking danger, right? You're not thinking.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wife is down at what was my grandmother's house, and so my mother-in-law's living there now. And my wife was down there with her and some friends, and they were all sitting in the living room down there talking. And my wife sends me a text and goes, "We just heard an owl outside." So they heard this thing inside. She says, "It sounds like it's a 6-foot owl sitting on the fence out here." Well, that's not right. Okay. I grabbed my rifle, went down there to check, and sure enough, I see something. This was shortly after Texas encounter with the crawler.
Mm-hmm.
And I see something gray shoot through where the garage is and down around to where a house that we were building is at. Okay, we're going to play this game. All right. So here I am walking around, and I have a flashlight on my rifle, and so that's what I'm using. And it's ready to go. And I go around there, and I go up towards the house, and I see it shoot off down towards the wood line. And then it noise. So here's this thing that's trying to lead me down into the woods, make me follow it.
Sure.
All right. So I get to the edge of the hill where I can see down towards the trees. And sure enough, here it is. It sticks its head out from around the tree. I'm guessing it did not expect me to pull the trigger as fast as I did because I hit it square in between the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about I shot it with a 44 mag out of a carbine. That will drop that'll drop a grizzly bear. I mean, plain and simple. That particular gun will drop a grizzly bear. This thing rolled backwards a couple of feet and got up and took off. So it's kind of one of those like, all right, well, that didn't kill it. Well, now it's pissed off. Awesome. All right.
Time to go.
Yeah.
It's only a flesh wound.
Yeah. Cool. I just pissed something off. All right. And I go back in and I tell my wife, I said, that wasn't an owl. And I said, it's time to go home.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Time to leave.
it's just things like that. And then, whenever that same weekend, whenever Ranger and Texas nephew were with us, and we did the same walk that we did at night, but it was during the day. And we walked back, and we're hearing crows go off. And well, crows are the snitches of the forest. If the crows are going off, something's not right.
Snitches of the forest.
I mean,
That's
if you hear crows going off, there's something there that they don't like.
no.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
As we're walking back, we hear this crow. I mean, Ranger describes it as berry white crow. I mean, this thing sounded like it was 350 pounds, just deep, gruff voice that carried forever. Like it was 3 times louder than the other crows. And I'm like, what the heck was that? All three of us are looking at one another like, that ain't normal.
You should hear Ranger like reenacted. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was scary at the time, but he's like, you hear this caw, 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 and then you hear caw.
Yeah.
Ew.
Like, what the hell? We're all looking over at this direction as we're walking back. We're looking through those trees. We see something start playing peekaboo around one of the trees. And we're like, I look at them. I'm like, well, let's go find out. The thing, what you're not supposed to do is, oh, cool, something freaky playing peekaboo around the trees. And as we're going in there, Texas nephew goes, "This is the part of the horror movie where people get hurt." Like, you'll be fine.
You're fine. You're fine.
No.
And we're walking in there, and the temperatures change. You'll hit cold spots. You'll see fog, and so we get back in there, and of course we're not seeing that thing playing peekaboo anymore. And so we kind of turn around. We're heading back. As we're walking back, we just see a foggish figure walking along the outside of the trees next to us. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. We head on back up to camp. Well,
Yeah.
Tex, you slept through something interesting. But yeah, it never a dull moment.
Okay, well, Ullerson, I know that you've got to jet, and we've been on for right at an hour and a half, and there's still so much to tell about the property and all the things that have happened there. If you're up to it in the future, I'd love to have you on again, and we can just continue the story.
Be glad to do a part 2.
Yeah, we will have
I'm
to.
sure there'll be more stories.
I'm sure there will be.
I mean, we didn't even get into the rogue ones either.
Yeah, and we didn't get into like you finding all the stuff at the barn that night.
Mm-hmm.
This last weekend. Yeah.
Yep. So we didn't get into a lot of the stuff. I mean, we've had our share of rogues. We've had our share of other terrifying events. So there's plenty more to talk about.
Thank you. Okay. Well, like I said, I'll schedule you here in a few weeks and we can just continue on with part 2. And thank you so much for taking time out of your night to visit with us and share your stories.
Oh yeah, definitely a great reprieve from doing payroll.
I don't doubt it. It's a nice break. So to everybody who joined us, thank you so much. Breezy, you got any closing statements?
No, I found the whole thing wildly interesting, and I can't wait to hear more, because I'm literally I'll refrain from my normal speak, but I'm new to it, so I dug it, dude. I thought it was very fascinating, and I'm curious to know a lot more, because it sounds like it does sound like if there's not even a part 2, there might be a part 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, there
sounds like there's so much more. Yeah.
I could write several books if I was a better writer.
Yeah, he's got a lot.
I could help you with that.
So,
but yeah, it definitely. There's been some funny interactions. There's been some terrifying ones. So yeah, they definitely have enough material for plenty of books.
Yeah, JoJo commented that you could easily make a documentary. And that would actually be pretty cool. I should talk to Chris about that.
Yeah, we can get Chris and Woody out there. That'd be dope.
Heck yeah.
Because,
So if you're interested in having a documentary made, we can probably arrange things.
I've started trying to at least wear GoPros whenever I'm going out in the woods and stuff, or carrying at least the video camera. But yeah, at least to try to capture some of it as far as on the video. But I mean, as I said, I've taken pictures of what I can and everything, and it never fails. I mean, anything I've ever tried to do as far as with a digital has been blurry.
Sure, with all the activity, I'm not surprised with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could set you up, and there's a whole documentary process. We can get your story, we can get stills, we can use some of the footage that you would have or that other people investigating would have, and anyway, that's a whole thing. So we're trying to let you go, not keep the conversation going tonight. So.
Sounds good.
So
we can make it happen.
For coming on. I really, really appreciate it. And everybody in chat has loved this so far. So they're definitely looking forward to that part 2.
Sounds good.
All right. So from me and Breezy and Mr. Ullerson, thanks for tuning in tonight, y'all, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to Eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.